Hello everybody, I'm Yoshi Kagami, President of Boss. I'm talking from Japan. So today's my partner is Jeff from Los Angeles. Hi Jeff, are you still awake?
I am still awake, Yoshi-san. It is great to see you. Everyone, my name is Jeff Slingloff. I'm the product manager for Boss here in the United States, and we're here with Talks with Boss, which is a weekly program which we get to do, and we get to talk to Yoshi Ikegami, president of Boss, and get all the behind-the-scenes stories of some fun of products and some really just interesting details that you wouldn't normally get. So we really love it. And Yoshi, do you want to tell everybody what today's theme is?
Yeah, today we are going to talk about Boss distortion pedals, orange pedals like DS1, DS2, and MD2.
That's great. Yeah. The DS1 followed after the OD1. It came out in 1978. I think it is currently the longest running Boss product that we have. It's now 42 years, something like that. And it's just been a tremendous part of the line for all of these years. And where the OD1 was the first overdrive pedal and first pedal to use the term overdrive, the DS1 was really kind of defined what distortion pedals would become for many years after that. Could you tell us the difficulties of producing and manufacturing such a staple product for over 40 years now?
Yes, 1978. That year I joined to Roland. You know, so 43 years keeping good condition of the product is very difficult. I'm keeping my condition good, but you know, and also maybe I'm talking about this thing frequently. Uh, continuing the production for such a long time, that is really difficult. You know, the parts manufacturer discontinue some parts and changing specs. So always we have to change the parts, but we always try to keep original sound. So DS1 we are shipping a lot of quantity, and also our mission, one of the mission is keeping good quality and stable quality. So we decided to change all the parts to surface mount parts in 2017. So this is not for reducing cost or protecting mod thing. You know, we really necessary to change the parts to keeping good supply condition and good quality, stable quality. So we decided to change the parts to surface mount.
Right. And we can do just as good as sound quality. A lot of people don't understand
Mm.
that, surface mount parts can sound just as good or better than through hole parts. And, there's some great things to reducing the size and putting it into a controlled scenario like that because there's less chance of breakage, which
Mm.
is great. Are the sound characteristics the same, and is the circuit changed in any way?
Yeah, always we are trying to keep same sound, you know, but changing the parts. So revolution of the parts. Sometimes they are just provide much low noise circuit, and also we are trying to improve the sound quality, which is changing a buffer circuit. So keeping very original sound and improving very basic spec of noise or something. That is our job.
Right. So not only is it a better product from a manufacturing standpoint, but we're also improving things like noise
Mhm.
floor, input buffers, right, and things like that, but keeping the same analog circuit so it still has the same characteristic and vibe and feel and tone. So in many ways, we could say that the current DS1 is actually the best DS1 to date,
Yeah,
right?
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And, it still has the same classic sound, the same cut through sound, that long sustain, focusing on single notes, which is why guitar players like
Mm.
Joe Satriani still loves his DS1, right? It's been really cool for so many players for so many years. Do you have any tips for the end users on getting good sounds for them, maybe?
Yeah. So DS1 sound is kind of like a very wide range, you know. Sometimes it's a little bit bright, so the how to use tone control is one of the key of how to use the DS1. You know, tone, if you turn to right side, that's a high boost and low cut, so you can get the crisp sound character. And the turn to left, that's low boost and high cut, so you can get more thicker sound and a little bit mellow tone. So if you want to get thick tone, thick sound, you should try to turn a little bit down to the tone knob.
Right. That's amazing, right? Yeah, and one of the things for people to understand is an overdrive pedal is really meant to be used with an amp that maybe already has some gain going on, and you just want to overdrive it, push it a little bit further. So in 1977, we came out with the OD1, which did a great job of that. And then, a year later, we came out with, the DS1, which could be plugged into an amplifier that was clean, and it was distortion. And that's why I say it kind of defined what distortion would become. And then time goes on a little bit, and we come to 1987, and we have a new pedal that we come out with, which is the DS2. And DS2 was a bit different, and we kept selling the DS1, but now we had the DS2, and it really became part of an instrumental thing for what became 90s alternative rock. Bands like Nirvana, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Weezer. People really loved them for their differences, and so could you still tell us a little bit about it and why people still love it today?
Yeah, so especially DS2, that was penetrated by such kind of artist use, so they are making the music maybe start with beautiful clean to changing very much loud, powerful distortion sound. So they wanted to have such a dynamic sound change. So DS2 was probably very much fit to their such kind of purpose, I think. So, DS1 was very much authentic and very much popular, but DS2 maybe that was growing up with such musicians.
Yeah, and I think there was still people were still figuring out different gain stagings and how to get their tones and stuff like that, and it was really instrumental. And as I said, it was great with a clean amp. For people at home, for years, in 1978, Roland came out with the JC120 amplifier. It's such a great delivery system for a pedal like this, and this pedal worked great with amps that were clean, anything from a JC120 to, clean Fender amps or anything like that. But, many guitar players at that time, they were using, trying to adjust their sound based on, volume, moving their volume pedal back or whatever, because the amps were distorted. And it was really designed to be worked with a clean amp a little bit more. Could you tell us a little bit more about why the DS2 was developed?
Yeah, when we started to sell DS1, guitar amplifier has their own sound character. So DS1 is very much flat because amp has a sound. But probably amp was improving much wider range at that time. So with a wider range of the flat amplifier with DS1, sometimes it's too much bright or something. So DS2 is kind of like a little bit different approach. Like when we released OD1, then we had a OD2, which is much more high gain type of OD1. So that was very accepted in the market, very much. So DS2 is the same. DS1 very flat, wider range distortion, making a little bit narrow range and adding more gain. That was kind of like evolution of the DS1. That is DS2. Very
Mm,
basic concept.
right. And could you tell everybody a little bit of some of the main features of a DS2?
Yes, DS2 has very unique parameter. Tab, turbo. You know,
Uh-huh.
tab,
Turbo, yes.
turbo was very much famous for car engine in that day,
Yes.
right? And at that time, big engine and big turbo combination provide very much powerful feeling.
Mhm.
I had a Mitsubishi Lancer Tab.
Oh, yeah.
That was crazy car. You know, easy to make a drift, and also once I stamped the axle, I can see the fuel meter is going down immediately.
Yes. Yes. Well, and just like, turbo on that car
Mm?
that has a distinct sound, so did the DS2. It had a very distinct turbo sound as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
So that image, DS2 has Turbo 1 and Turbo 2, two different turbo mode. So Turbo 1 is close to DS1, a little bit dark compared to DS1, but kind of like similar and kind of like edgy sound. And the Turbo 2, that is totally different sound from DS1. That has more high gain and mid boost sound that provides much thicker distortion sound. So sometimes that is very well work with a clean amplifier like a Fender type of, and also JC120 as well. And also you can change this tab 1 and tab 2 mode by foot switch. That is
right.
very useful. You can play as a side guitar and solo guitar, change the mode.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so it was a dual pedal, right?
Yes.
So which it may have been one of the first dual pedals ever. Actually, you see that much more common today, but that was a cool feature. So the DS2, as we know that Kurt Cobain was notorious for using a DS2.
Mhm.
You can hear it on some of the later stuff, like in Utero. And when we look at some of the photos and stuff like that, I think we've determined that the unit that he was using was probably made in Taiwan, not in
Mm.
Japan. And and we know that in the early stuff that Kurt Cobain did, a lot of the stuff was a DS1. So it's nice to see that he started off with a DS1, later went to DS2. MTV Unplugged, which he's really famous for, was probably a DS1. I think is what he was actually using there. But it's really interesting because the price of DS2s made in Japan is just kind of skyrocketing right now. Is there a difference between a DS2 made in Taiwan versus a DS2 made in Japan?
So maybe I'm talking about this thing quite often. Also I was talking in DS1 part. Very basic sound designs, same, and we are always trying to keep same sound. Especially very early stage of Taiwan, made in Taiwan, it's totally same parts to made in Japan, MIJ. But there are a lot of guys, they say that they love MIJ pedal. It's
Hmm.
of course I understand kind of like nostalgic thing, you know,
Yes.
and also some parts that has aging, so sound a little bit change, especially electronic condenser. But that is kind of like losing some sound.
Right.
Yeah.
It's losing frequency response
Yes.
over time.
And also some guys telling uh, made in Japan and made in Taiwan use different diode. Very early model made in Japan used germanium diode, and Taiwan made in Taiwan using silicon type of diode. But that is very much small part of the DS2. If you turn down guitar volume and using like a slightly distortion, maybe there is something small difference. But usual driving sound, distortion sound, It's mainly decided the sound by after diode circuit. So we are tuning the sound mainly with post uh, diode circuit. So I think there is not so much different.
Yeah, and I think some manufacturers for years have used germanium diodes because they had a little bit of an asymmetrical clipping to germaniums naturally. But Boss has always had, since the OD1, we've had a patent on asymmetric clipping. So even in silicon, we kind of already get there and get a natural sound for it. So there isn't much of a difference between them at all, which is interesting. But it's cool. And, as I said, as you said, nostalgia is a good reason for wanting them from Japan. Collect them. Right, you got to collect every color, right? So now we've talked about two pedals. We've talked about the DS1 and the DS2, both amazing pedals, both amazing as cool pedals and also historically unique. Now let's go to the MD2. MD2 was called Mega Distortion. It was released in 2001.
Yeah.
Like the other pedals, it continues to sell today. So it's over 20 years old and continues to sell. And it's been an amazing part of the Boss family line. And, when people see the word Mega Distortion, they think it means extreme distortion, right? And we need to talk about that a little bit. And what was unique about it is it did have dual stage gain circuits, which are unique.
Yeah.
And but it was really articulate to the finger and to the hand. You could hear guitar pick. Could you tell us a little bit about the design background and the development process in that product?
Yeah. So before talking about MD2, MD2 was released right after XT2 Extortion and PW2 power driver. So I should tell about XT2 and PW2 a little bit. XT2 and PW2, they have a similar concept. They have very much unique sound character. XT2 has unique parameters, contour and punch. Two knobs, you can make very much aggressive distortion sound and a lot of distortion, and that is good for grunge or thrash metal, such kind of new category appeared on 90s. So with such background, XT2 was developed, and PW2 that has a massive parameter that is changing mid sound, and also fat is adding fat sound. So the PW2 is not smooth distortion, very much aggressive character. So that is high gain. Two XT2 and PW2 pedals, they have a very unique parameter name, and also that name is a little bit difficult to image what kind of sound we can get. So these two pedals are kind of like short life. XT2 released in 1996 and discontinued on 1998, just only 2 years, and PW2 96 to 2000, 4 years. So after these XT2 and PW2, we decided to go back to very much authentic distortion sound. That concept is MD2. So MD2 has very authentic circuit that is booster stage and distortion stage. That provide very much stack amp sound, like clipping circuit. We don't use diode, that is amplifier clip, and booster section that has no overdrive, a little bit mid boost, and kind of like natural. So yeah, this time I of course tried to use these three pedals, compare them.
Hmm.
So Mega Distortion name is kind of like uh, as a name, Mega Distortion, right?
Yes.
But this pedal sound is very much natural. So if of course you can get very much high gain distortion sound if you turn full up all the parameter. But if you control the distortion and boost, you can get very much natural amplifier sound with rich low end like a stack amp. You know, so maybe people might misunderstand the mega distortion sound.
Yes, the name is a little bit wrong.
Mhm.
So, so it's got the booster, light, mid booster switch. And do you want to explain the unique behavior of this pedal knob?
Yeah. So that has two different gain boost and distortion control. So you can make a lot of variation of the sound. So as I said, two knobs has a different character. For example, gain boost. That's if you turn up gain boost, you can get a little mid boost, and that's probably good for solo play, very smooth distortion.
Hmm.
And if you turn up distortion knob, you can get much more loud distortion sound. So if you set gain boost at 0 and a little bit turn down distortion, then you can get very natural, like crunch sound you can get. So these two knobs designed very much organic, you know. So you can get very much natural crunch sound to aggressive distortion sound. Maybe this pedal is very much useful. I like this pedal.
Yeah, its name would make us think that it's only good for high gain metal or something like that. But the truth is that it's a very versatile pedal. And you know, in recent times, many manufacturers have done what I refer to as preamp pedals, right? You know, so we had overdrive pedals, distortion pedals, and then in modern times we have preamp pedals, which is like the preamp section of an amplifier. But when you look at this pedal with its multiple gain stages and the way they push against each other and stuff like that, it really is probably one of the first preamp style pedals to do that.
Yeah.
And gets all that full tonal flavor from different harmonic content, from different clipping and stuff like that. So it's totally cool. This is extremely very useful information. And the tone and the bottom knobs can be used separately. Do you have any tips for these controls?
Yes. So tone is very much regular tone. So just you can get the mild tone, the sharp tone. The bottom is, not for metal. Like a very low end bottom, a little bit higher than metal type of low. That's on calculation. That's is center frequency is 117 hertz. That is A sharp maybe. So yeah, this pedal is very much unique. So please don't think the mega distortion name is the same to the sound. Maybe you can get a much wider sound, useful sound. So you should try.
Yes, I think it could be used in many, many different applications. Maybe put a piece of tape over mega distortion for 1 minute and try different styles, right? But yeah, you're right. The bass knob is 117 hertz, which, the A note on a guitar is 110 hertz. And most 412 cabinets are somewhere between 115, 120 hertz. So it's probably tuned right to that thump that we like from a 412 cabinet. So cool. So Yoshi, thank you very much for those explanations.
Yeah.
We got a couple of questions and a few people we want to say hi to.
Yeah.
First, we have Cozy, Alberto, Claudio,
Mhm.
Jack, Jamie, Russell. So hi guys, thanks for coming to see you. I recognize some of these names from other shows. And somebody was asking about the DS1X. I think we probably need to talk about that on a separate show, maybe an X series pedal discussion.
Mhm.
But do you have any quick comments on DS1X?
DS1X. Yeah. So maybe we talked about a little bit about DS1X and OD1X. So that is kind of like a translucent type of distortion. Maybe it's a probably for most of the guys that's the first experience to listen. You can get original sound and also with distortion. So if
Mhm.
you play the chord, you can keep chord sound. Usually, distortion, too much chord is not providing not good sound. But
Mhm.
DS1X is totally different. So it's very much difficult to explain by word. So please try to DS1X and OD1X. X series is very
Yes.
much special.
Yeah. The X series is definitely a conversation we should have in a future Talks with Boss. But it's all about MDP, which is multidimensional processing.
Mhm.
And yeah, your description of you can play a chord and all the notes come through, and it's kind of listening to what you're playing. And as you play higher notes, it'll change the distortion to make them come through, and lower notes, it keeps them clean. It's really, really cool. We also had a question from Diego.
Mhm.
What about the MZ, the MZ2 digital maximizer, which we came out with in 1987? Because it has a unique function of doubling distortion, which is kind of like he referred to it as a chorusing distortion, which is cool. Probably because the harmonics are interacting in a fun, cool way. Maybe we could talk about that a little bit at some point in time. But do you want to have any quick comments on it?
So right now I have no comment about MG.
The MZ2?
Yeah.
It has been a while since I've played an MZ2. I remember it being extremely cool. That is definitely a cool pedal that we should go back and talk to about at some point in time. So, Diego, thank you for that suggestion. We'll try and wrap around at some point and get to that. So, well, that's been great. We've had a good talk about, a couple weeks ago, we talked about overdrive pedals, all the yellow pedals. Today, we got to talk about all the orange pedals, the DS1, which is now over 40 years old, the DS2, which came out in 1987, and the MD2, which call it an MD2, not a mega distortion, because it doesn't have to be mega distortion. It can be for everyone else. So thank you for those explanations. Yoshi, do you want to tell everybody what we should talk about next week?
Yes. How about talk with BD2 Boost Driver? We had a Japanese version of a Talk with Boss. We talked about BD2, but for English people, we didn't talk about BD2. Maybe so BD2 and BD2W.
Right. Okay. Well, I think BD2 would be great, and it really ties in nicely to what we were just talking about on the MD2, because MD2 was a multi-clicking stage pedal that was kind of derived from an amplifier. BD2 has also some of those similar characteristics. So the Boss team back then was definitely getting growing in their knowledge of distortion capabilities. So I really look forward to going deeper into that. So thank you. That's a great idea. For everyone else at home, please leave your questions, comments, impressions, anything you'd like to let us know about in this chat, because we'd love to hear from you. And please come and join us again next week. The next episode will be Talks with Boss on BD2 on Thursday, April 28th, at 7:30 a.m. in the UK, at 3:30 p.m. in Japan time, and the night before in the LA, which will be on the 27th at 11:30 p.m. I get to live one day ahead of you guys, so that's always great. So Yoshi, thank you very much for such a fun talk about these cool pedals, and I look forward to talking to you more soon.
Yeah, thank you very much everybody for joining. So for some people it's 3 a.m. So please go to bed. Thank you very much.
But thanks for staying awake.
See you next week.